want to talk about Carson Wentz. I am really, really excited to watch quarterback Carson Wentz play in the NFL this fall. He's had a weird career. It's kind of been a roller coaster. And all of the craziness has kind of led to this one moment this year where I think this year could be a year where Carson Wentz is a very, very special story. And so what I want to do is I want to go back to the very beginning and tell the story of Carson's career so far to this point and kind of how we've gotten to this moment and why this moment matters so much, what makes it so unique in the NFL. So first of all, Carson Wentz was drafted number 2 overall by the Philadelphia Eagles in the 2016 NFL Draft. Philly traded up from the number 8 overall pick to the number 2 pick to go get Carson. They gave up a 2017 first-round pick. They made a big move to go get him. Now, in 2016, Frank Reich was the offensive coordinator in Philly. Frank Reich and Carson Wentz first met in the NFL draft process. Philly wanted to draft him, and the two just clicked immediately. Frank Reich is a former NFL quarterback, and the two just related to each other a lot. In fact, there's apparently a story that I saw recently where Frank Reich was quoting a Bible verse in a pre-draft meeting with Carson, and Carson went, "Oh my gosh, really?" And lo and behold, he held up his phone, and he already had that exact Bible verse as the background for his phone. It's like, wow, okay, they were on the same page to a crazy degree, Carson and Frank Reich. And so the Eagles drafted Carson Wentz. He became their starting quarterback. And one of the weirdest and kind of saddest parts of his career is in 2017 when Carson Wentz had his second year in the NFL, sophomore year, doing phenomenal. Everyone has that second year. Lamar had a second year MVP trophy. Patrick Mahomes won the NFL MVP in his second year. And man, in 2017, Carson Wentz was the NFL MVP frontrunner through the first 13 games of the NFL season. He was on a tear. But in that Week 14 game against the LA Rams, he tore his ACL. And it's kind of wild. He tore his ACL on a first and goal play, dove for a touchdown, got called back, and what he decided to do, he got hurt, but he finished the drive. He stayed in the game, and they went for it on 4th and goal. Carson threw the go-ahead touchdown to take the lead over LA. And then he left the game because he got hurt and he tore his ACL. And for me, I'm like, that's really impressive. It shows his toughness. He had to finish the drive. He knew it hurt. Deal with it later. I'm going to finish the drive. But Carson, after that, was out for the year. Tore his ACL, season over. And then without him, his team went on. The Eagles went on to win a Super Bowl with their backup quarterback, Nick Foles. And you're like, oh my gosh, that's wow. And things quickly changed a lot in Philadelphia where, for example, outside the stadium, they built a statue of the backup quarterback, Nick Foles, outside their football stadium. It's a big deal. It's like, oh, okay, not a fun reminder if you're Carson Wentz. For everybody else, you're probably happy. But if you're the starting quarterback and your backup quarterback has a trophy and you don't, I don't care how much ego is this is not an egotistical thing of Carson, but it's kind of weird to have the backup get that kind of treatment and not you. And then after the Super Bowl, suddenly there was a quarterback controversy in Philadelphia. Even though through the first 13 games, 2017, Carson Wentz was the clear MVP favorite before getting hurt. And by the way, he had the second most touchdown passes in the NFL that year. And, he lost only by 1 touchdown pass to Russell Wilson, even though Carson didn't even play the final 3 weeks of the year because he tore his ACL. Like, that goes to show, for perspective, how much he was dominating in 2017, the NFL season. But still, not only did Carson have an amazing year and then, get replaced by Nick Foles due to an injury and then have people wanting him to be replaced full-time. People in Philly were calling for Carson to be the guy to leave Philly. Like, we want Nick Foles, not Carson Wentz. After Carson had a phenomenal year. But also, on top of all that, Carson's buddy, the Eagles offensive coordinator, Frank Reich, left to go be the Indianapolis Colts head coach. So we lost his favorite coach, probably going through a lot. You're hurt, you're recovering, and your backup quarterback's getting a ton of praise. And without Frank Reich, after that moment, Carson was not the same in Philadelphia. In fact, later in 2020, last year, the Eagles roster fell apart. They were injured all over the place. They had problems. They had bad players. The offensive line was a mess. And Carson Wentz started playing hero ball. It's where you try to do too much. You make up for the lack of talent around you, and you try to just make big plays and force stuff that isn't there. Holding onto the ball too long, fumbling. Against Dallas, there's a play that is ingrained in my mind forever. It's a terrible football play. Held onto the ball too long, fumbled, gave up the ball. It's awful. And eventually, Carson was benched and replaced by rookie quarterback Jalen Hurts. Now, to be clear, I want to be very honest about this. Carson Wentz was playing badly last year in 2020. He deserved to lose his starting job. He deserved to be benched. But in the long run, Philly decided, hey, we want Jalen Hurts to be our new franchise quarterback. And Carson was unwanted in Philly. A bit weird for a former MVP frontrunner. Now, my favorite part of this whole story for Carson Wentz is that this offseason, the Colts head coach Frank Reich made a move and made a trade along with their GM, Chris Ballard, to go get Carson Wentz. They traded for Carson. And it came across like, you know what? Frank Reich went out and got his quarterback. He said, I want that guy. That's my dude. Let's go get him. And so I am really, really excited to watch Carson Wentz this fall playing for the Colts in that blue uniform. Last time he teamed up with Frank Reich, he was an NFL MVP favorite 13 games into the regular season. There's so much potential here. And I want to say, the situation you play in really, really matters. Carson is insanely talented. Now he's on a great team with the perfect coach for him. And I want to point out that this kind of stuff doesn't happen very often. It's very rare that you get to work in an ideal situation with coworkers who compliment you and people who that believe in you and you work well with your boss. Usually what would happen in the NFL is you get an awesome coach and you work really well together, but then he leaves and you never get to see him again. You never coach. You never work with him ever again. That coach, nice knowing you, you're gone. But not only is it a reunion, it's a reunion that Frank Reich sought out. He said, I want Carson. Go get him. And the way that things worked out is so wild because you got to realize that if Carson had a good year in 2020, Philadelphia would not have traded him. Like, if Carson didn't have a bad year in 2020, the Colts would not have been able to make a move and go get him. This fun reuniting of Frank Reich and Carson Wentz had to have a lot of stuff go right in order for it to work. And the coolest thing here, it's another rare thing about this whole opportunity, is that Carson Wentz has a real opportunity to maximize his potential. Got a great team around him. He's got the best possible coach for him. I really want to see Carson Wentz in the MVP conversation again. I would love to see him competing for a title. That would be so cool. And what's cool about Indy this year is that there's an opportunity for that to actually happen, where it's just this Cinderella story where all the stuff came together, the coach who liked the player who worked well together, and the team that supports him. Like, what's also crazy is Frank Reich could have never seen this coming. When he took the Colts head coaching job, his quarterback was Andrew Luck. He thought Andrew Luck is going to be my guy for the next 10 years. And then out of nowhere, Andrew Luck retired. The only reason we're even talking about this is because Andrew Luck retired. The amount of things that had to happen to lead to this moment in 2021 where suddenly Carson Wentz is a Colts starting quarterback playing for his favorite coach, Frank Reich. Unbelievable. I think Indianapolis is one of these incredible stories that doesn't happen very often, where everything's falling into place exactly perfectly. And I think it could turn out phenomenally, and I'm very excited. I want to see Carson do very, very well in Indianapolis this fall in 2021.